Thank you. Okay, so everybody, we're here this afternoon to have a networking session on funding, which we thought and hope might be useful for you as you move forward, because we appreciate that the funding is slightly less this year than it was in the previous year. So we want to make sure that you have all of the tools available to be able to move your hubs forward so they can thrive. Oh, hold on, can't get it to move on. Bear with me a second. There we go. I've already done the introduction to the speakers. So what we're going to cover this afternoon is we'll do a quick workshop session for you, just to give you some ideas to get you started. Then we'll hear from the case studies, and then, as I said, there'll be plenty of time for you to do some networking at the end. Okay, so the first side, really, I can't underestimate how important research is, and it's really important to take time to find funders that really align to your activities. So in your case, your hub and the activities that you have going on in your hubs every week. Again, can't underestimate the importance of local connections, making sure that you've got good communication links with your parish council and other local charities. Your parish council almost certainly will know where your local charities are, and they can help you make those approaches to them if you don't know them already. Quite often villages will have pause charities or charities for the elderly already set up. So it's really good to have those conversations locally and find out what's going on in the village. Have a word with the parish council. They will inevitably know who are the right people to contact, and see if you can make your approaches. And I know I've got some good examples later on where those relationships are working really well, and the parish councils are being really supportive to those hubs. The other bit we've got on the bottom of this slide is 2 funding platforms, and it's really good idea to register with these funding platforms if you can. One is the Support Cambridgeshire one. That's the first one shown on there, and that will give you, it's a really good opportunity to be able to register on there. You can refine what you're looking for in terms of your funding. So you could use this for other, if you're involved in other organisations, groups, and I recommend this one to village halls quite often. You can refine what you're looking for. And the programme will also deliver a report for you. So it will kind of collate everything together for you in a report form. So it makes it quite easy for you to run through and then do further research on any of the funders that it pulls up. So Support Cambridgeshire, do register. And then the other one is My Funding Central. Again, I do recommend this to village halls very frequently, actually, because they're really good places to be able to go through, see what the national funds are, and then align your project to to what they have on offer on those platforms. And it will pick up all the major national ones as well as the smaller ones. So our next kind of tip for you really is about keeping it clear and simple. You might find it a useful exercise to do this with your committee, to kind of sit down and scope a simple document where you can pull together in one place all of the key information that you have about your group and your organisation. The one thing I quite like about, and I did this for groups that I was involved in when I was doing a lot of community work, was by pulling a document together and having all of your information in one place, it means that from that one document, several people can fill out application forms. It doesn't have to be all on the shoulders of one person, but everybody's working from that one document, so they're able to ensure that there's the continuity and they're saying the same thing about the organisation. It really does make a difference if you can, share the load and get out multiple applications as you're going along. If you're drafting a few paragraphs, it's within the document, it's really handy to be able to do that, so that if you have a descriptive paragraph about what your group does, you can then just cut and paste that descriptive paragraph and then enter it into funding applications. So you can devise your document so it's actually saving you time and you're not having to start from scratch every time when you're trying to describe and explain what your group does. So I would recommend having a kind of a core document where you can put all of the information in it and then be able to draw on that when you're filling in the application forms. As it says on this side, keep it clear and simple. Avoid using any jargon or terms that you use locally for groups and organisations. You just want to make sure that you're being able to say what your group does in the fewest amount of words, really, because you want to keep it really concise and really clear, your funding application. And the bit on the bottom here about be specific about who will benefit, you can tailor that to your local community as much as possible. And if you're looking for statistics about your village, please do get in touch with us as village agents, because we're more than happy to help and support you draw that information together if you haven't actually done that type of thing before, if you haven't looked at the statistical data to pull it together. So it's something that we can do to help you. So highlighting community impact. Do remember to tell the funder, how many people use and value your hub. It's really important that you kind of get that information through about how special this is to your community and how valued it is in your community. We've heard at Cambridgeshire Acre, we've heard some wonderful stories and feedback from hubs where it's literally changed people's lives, helped people to reconnect back with their community, stopped people from feeling lonely and isolated. And your funding application is a really good way of, expressing to the funders about what an impact this is having in your community. I can think that of a conversation I had recently where I was talking to a gentleman, and he gets the bus to his local hub, or it's the most close hub to him. But in order for him to get there, he has to take a bus journey, and the bus takes him an hour to get there and an hour to get home. But he loves going to the hub so much, he wouldn't miss his hub. He goes every single week and he wouldn't miss it. Even though it takes him, a good journey to get there, it's a really important factor in his life. And I think if you can get those messages through in your funding application about the impact you're making to individuals, again, it's a really important factor in terms of having success, in terms of voicing your community's feelings to the funders. And again, if you want help and support in terms of drawing information together, wording documents, just speak to us as village agents. It's something that I will keep reminding you throughout this presentation, because we're here to help and support you and make sure that you're successful in achieving these funding applications. So the next one is about a budget. Well, you've probably already got budgets in place. If you haven't got one in place, we can provide you with a template document to help get you started. But it's really important to know that, where your income is coming from, where are your outgoings, how much you're collecting, if you're collecting donations on a weekly basis, how much that is coming into your organisation. So the sooner you can, if you haven't done it already, the sooner that you can actually set that down on paper, the better. Really ensure that the budget is very clear and sets out the expenditures for the whole year, and predict as much as possible what your income is likely to be from fundraising events and obviously from grants that you're already receiving, like our grant, and donations. It's really important to check the application guidelines to ensure that you've included everything that they expect to see, and they will be able to tell you what information obviously they want from you. So do carefully read that to make sure that you're covering all bases and that you've included all of the materials that they're expecting. So showing sustainability and local support. Hubs are clearly valued by their community, and we hope they will continue for many years to come and will continue to thrive. And it's really important that we show funders how you hope to achieve this. So it's important to talk about the connections that you have locally, and we've already mentioned about parish councils, local charities, other organisations in the community. And we know that there are already some parish councils that are financially supporting hubs. So you could always use that in your funding applications as match funding. So, you know, tell the funders about how your local charities and local parish councils are supporting your hub already. And as I say, that can be used as match funding against other funds. If the parish council and other local organisations are happy, you could encourage them to write letters of support as well. This would also be useful in terms of your application. And even if you've got attendees who you know want to write letters of support and express how much the hub has meant to them and what a difference it's made to them, you know, again, these are all things that build up the picture of how successful your hub is and what you're doing at your hub. You could also use things like surveys in order to gauge people's views, but you can also use it as a way of collecting quotes from attendees, making sure that you do add a box on the bottom where they're giving their permission for you to use this information. So, you know, if you're going to quote names, do make sure that you've got permission from them in order that you can do that. But it really adds strength and breadth to your application if you are able to encourage people to say what difference it is making to their lives. Following the application guidelines, as it says, it's really important. And so often applications will fail because the guidelines haven't been read or the paperwork hasn't been submitted correctly or pieces of information have been missed out. And I've sat on the other side of this process where I've had to be the person reviewing funding applications. And sometimes people leave out really obvious pieces of material. You know, you've asked for a certain document or you know, a certain piece of feedback or something, and it's been missed out. So do check and double check before you send in any funding applications. And it's always worth, you know, as we've said here, you know, it's always worth having somebody to double check your document for you and just double check that you've collected everything together. I mean, I know from a personal point of view, you get somebody else to have a second pair of eyes on something before you read it, before you submit something. And you know, you can have made the most obvious mistake that you have read over and read over and read over yourself and completely missed it. So and it can be something really, really obvious. So do get a second pair of eyes to look at any documents that you're going to submit. And again, you know, as village agents, we're here to help. We can do proofreading for you. We can be that second pair of eyes just to say, yep, you've got everything in place. There's no errors that no glaring errors that you've missed yourself. So yeah, just check, double check, and make sure that you're submitting everything that they've asked for. So we're kind of nearly at the end of our kind of top tips section. Tell your story. As it says on the slide here, and we've kind of I've tried to include some photos of various hubs that we've travelled around and been meeting people. But it's really important to have that human story, that how, you know, the impact it's making on people's lives and the involvement that communities you know, engaging with each other. So do make sure that you collect as much information around that as possible. and make it as, you know, full of personal stories. So finally, just to review what we've looked at here this afternoon, in terms of my top 3 tips that I would suggest to you to make sure when you're filling in your applications is keep your application clear and concise, show the community impact, and definitely adhere to the guidelines and make sure that you're including all of the information that you want. And as village agents, we're here to help you every step of the way. If this is the first funding application you've put in, or you know you're not sure that you've got everything that you need in place, we're here to help and support you. So please just give us a shout. So then, just looking at some ideas and examples. We've already talked about the parish council, so if you haven't done so already, contact your parish council and see if they will either directly help you in terms of supporting your group or help you with other contacts in the community, because quite often the councillors and the parish clerk will know contacts and be able to maybe reach out a little bit further than you are on a personal capacity. Contact you know, the local charities. Quite often, as I've said, local villages do have very local charities that you can tap into, and one of our examples will be talking about that. Contact local businesses in your area and see if they can offer any financial support. I know sometimes that can be quite difficult, and they might already be supporting other things in the community. So I appreciate can be quite a sensitive area, but you know, there might be a possibility that there is a local business that is prepared to support you. And as we said in the previous slide, you can use any of those examples as match funding as well to go towards other funds that you might be applying for. At the bottom here, we've put some examples of places that you can also try for funding. So the Cambridgeshire Community Foundation, do sign up for their funding alerts. They will send round on a regular basis all of the funds that they have available at the moment, and they'll give you the deadlines as well for the funds that are either just about to close or just opening or whatever. So, you know, do have a look at their website, but sign up for their funding alerts. Awards for All has now been increased. So it used to be a cap of 10,000, but they're now up to £20,000. So I think it runs from 300 to £20,000. So Awards for All is quite a simple and quick application that you can make. So again, that's another good one to try. We recently came across a fund called the Good Fund. Again, have a look at their website and see if you can meet their criteria. And then the last example I've given there, I've given the South Cambs example, but most district councils have a community chest. And you'll be able to access that funding through their website. So if you go onto your local authority's website and put in community chest, then that will bring up, or even if you put in grants actually, because quite often the community chest will be listed as one of many other grants. So that you will be able to find and source grants through your local authority's website as well. So this is the first of our case studies. It's the only one that is recorded. So I'm keeping my fingers firmly crossed and hoping that that this works.
I'm sorry I'm not with you at the moment. My name's Jane Oakes. I'm a licensed lay pioneer that some people might remember them as readers at All Saints Church in Landbeach in Cambridgeshire. And we have the benefit of being one of the hubs. Our main outreach is on a Wednesday. We have a hub Wednesday lunchtimes between I don't know, 11 o'clock, or some people turn up at 10:30, and we try and throw them out by 2:30. But during this time, our main focus is to come alongside people and give them a meal. How do we do this, and how do we afford to do this? Well, we're very grateful that we're getting the money from the hub, from ACRE, and that's brilliant. But of course, there's a shortfall. How do we get that? We're very much a community enterprise, and we're very lucky that our parish council doesn't take much prompting to give us a bit of money. And we also have a local charity who tops up some cash as well. So that's our main source of funding. Also, with our lunch, we don't charge any money at all for sometimes up to a 3-course meal. But people do make some donations. So we do have a pot out there for people to put a bit of cash in if they can. And it balances out, and we manage to keep things going using the church. And our main expense, of course, is the heating of it in the winter. But how do we manage to do all this food? Well, I had a thought when I started my ministry there that feed my sheep, and I love food. You can see I'm so slight. I do like my food. And how could we do that? Well, we changed the back of the church into a cafe area, and then we applied for stars, the hygiene certificates and the food hygiene 5-star thing that you get for being able to use premises. And that takes quite a lot of doing. I was very lucky that there was somebody in the business that helped me through it. But that is the key to being able to collect food from supermarkets, which is what we do regularly. So you've had to start off with getting your 5-star certificate, or best stars you can get. And then you need, and to do that, going back a bit, you've also got to be able to have your hygiene certificates and the certificates about allergens. So all of that comes in. So it's quite a long, drawn out thing. And then you have to fill all the forms in and have to be inspected. And then once you've got your certificate, and I'm grateful, I'm waiting to hear that ours has been renewed, but I'm assuming it has. And then you can approach places like FareShare and supermarkets through Caboodle. And if they have sessions that they can give to you, you can then start collecting food from them. They need to know that any food they're giving to you, you'll be able to safely store and distribute. So that's why you need all of those star things and the certificates to be able to do this. It takes a lot of doing, and we collect from 3 to 4 supermarkets every night. And it isn't just me, I've got a team, thank you, that helps do this. And we have not just the lunches to be able to provide food for, but we also supply to families that we know are struggling. So I don't know, what did we have this week? We'd been given some pate, and of course we've always got bread. So we had pate on toast. It looked pretty posh, and we made it look really good. And then we had, I'd been given some non-fish fingers from somewhere else that has excess food. And we have an excess of croissant, believe it or not, and I managed to make a bread and butter pudding with chocolate croissant. So all in all, we can be quite imaginative with what we get. So I got a lot of potato next week, and it'll be cheese and potato pie, I'm sure. So we just need to be imaginative. You need, I'm afraid, quite a few people on board if you're going to start collecting, because it's quite a chore to go out 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock every night to see what people have got, and then have to deal with it after that, because if it needs freezing, it has to be frozen, excuse me, or in a fridge, if it's best before but not used by, called used by, you've got to be really careful, it's got to be dealt with that day. But it's best before, you've got till the next day to give out to people that can use it up, and to make things go a bit further for their families. And that's how we try and work. As I said, I'm in a little village called Lambeach. It is very small. I'm sorry I'm not with you at the moment. My name's Jane Oakes. I'm a...
Sorry about that. It seemed to completely flip forward. Hold on.
People went to see the parish council originally to say, this is what we're doing. But they knew what we were doing, because they'd been aware of it for a while. And explaining that our funding wasn't going to be as good as it had been, and could they possibly help? And they were only too pleased to do so. And they then said, have you thought about the local charities? And I'm sure that most villages have local charities you can go to. Ours is called the Widows Trust. and it had some spare cash, and it also gives out cash to for heating grants and things like this. I know in Waterbeach they do heating grants, and people I'm licensed to both parishes, and in Waterbeach I've referred people to the local charity there when they've been struggling with debt or things like that. So it's a case of finding out where your local charities are, and again striking up a good relationship. And I mean, my vicar told me that they really do listen when an application comes in for me, because they know and trust me, and know the connections I've got and the work I'm doing in the parishes. So relationships, I think it's down to relationships to be able to approach different charities to say, please, can you help?
Lovely. Right. So, apologies, my video jumped there for a bit, but hopefully I didn't cut out too much of Jane. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second because we've got our other three case studies. So I don't know who wants to go first. Alison, did you want to go first? Would that be okay? So
yes, of course. Sorry, I ran off earlier. You saw me running away. My son's in hospital at the moment. That was his consultant, so I had to run away and talk to them. Sorry.
Oh dear. Over to you, Alison.
Okay, so I'm from Teversham Community Hub, but my main role is I'm Teversham Parish Council clerk. And if I give you a bit of background about the hub to start off with, we started out of our Age UK warden scheme closing down. We only had 2 households signed up to it, and Age UK couldn't justify giving us a warden anymore, which was fair enough. So we did a questionnaire to the whole of the parish, asking if they wanted a warden scheme, and if not, what else did they want. And the main thing that came back was that most people were lonely, and they thought that they liked the idea of the warden scheme, but no one actually wanted to use it. So we came up with the idea of a hub, which would probably be reach out to more people. So we only started in January. We only had the idea about October last year, so about a year ago. So we started, and it's run by the parish council really. So I'm the lead volunteer, and my other volunteers are parish councillors. I have 2 other people because we don't have a village hall. We didn't have anywhere to run it, but we have a social club in Teversham, which used to be the Conservative Club, and they host it for us. So we started there doing it on a Tuesday every week, and we normally get about 13 people. We have a sort of bunch of regulars, but we have had up to 27, and we organise different activities, not every week because they don't want activities every week, but like tomorrow it's Fuel Poverty Awareness Week, so we've got somebody coming to talk to us from Age UK about fuel poverty. And they will do a little presentation, and then they'll sit amongst what we call our hubsters and just have tea and coffee with them and chat in quite a relaxed atmosphere. We've got some men who just sit in the corner and play cards. They don't want to really engage, which again is fine. With the grants and with our funding, so our main cost is hiring the hall. Unfortunately, it's a great venue, but they do charge us quite a lot. So that's where most of my fundraising has to go towards. The parish council fund us heavily, giving us the money that they would have given to the warden scheme. Obviously ACRE, but then my other main grants have come from the county council, and I've had 2 grants from them, both from the communities team. They're both one-off payments. One was for £6,700, which was a start. Alan looked shocked. Which was a one-off setup fee, and then I've had a £500 grant for a coach trip that we ran. I've also done a stall at our local feast, and I don't know if any of you in your villages have a one-stop shop, but they have a grant process as well. You have to be within 3 miles of a one-stop shop, and their 2nd of December is when their grants open again, and that's from £500 to £1,000, so that's quite good. With all of the grants is exactly as Lisa was saying. You just have to be very specific about what you want. And there's normally some kind of payback as well. But it sounds more scary than it actually is. So for the county, all I have to do is just have an online meeting once every 6 months, just to sort of say how it's going. And they normally tell me things that they think I should be doing. I mean, this time it was I should be taking photographs of the people that attend and putting them on Facebook. My hubsters don't want that because they don't want to be sort of named on social media. So, and I haven't done it, and I haven't been made to do it. So it's not as scary as it, you know, you don't. It's not as scary as you have to do all these different things. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Alison. Thank you very much for sharing. Hilton, did you want to go next?
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Hilton Fisher. I'm lead at Doddington Community Living Room. We're based in Fenland, sort of midway between March and Chatteris. Originally, we were a warm hub. Your brain plays tricks on you, doesn't it? And I can't quite sure how the warm hub came about, but I've been involved with that from the start. And obviously, we became attached to Cambridge Acre. And luckily, the volunteers transferred over, and we've had more volunteers since then. So we run the living room on Friday mornings between 10 and 1:30. And we have tea, coffee, biscuits, a quiz. We have simple things for lunch like soup, and we get bread, which comes from one of the food fridges. They drop the bread off to us before I think they go to Wimbledon. So that's nice. That's another option that people can take. We've just bought an air fryer, so we're hoping to do a bit more, choice for people moving forward, especially with the cold weather. We've been quite lucky so far that the funding we've had from Cambridge Acre has been enough to keep us going, but we are aware that that will probably need to change moving forward. It's quite good that the funding we have we can transfer over to the next year. When we were the Warm Hub, we did have funding through the parish council, and I'm sure that they would be happy to support us as well. And the other option is that a room that we hire is called the Church Rooms in Doddington. It was originally built as a reading room, so people had access to print in the days when, it isn't as it is now. And it might be that the church would be able to be accommodating towards us for the funding. So I've got two thoughts so far with St Mary's giving some funding or lowering the room rate, but also the parish council. Just recently, we have access and funding through Tesco. So that's Tesco in March. And Lucille, our village agent, kindly invited Kelly, who runs Kelly in the Community, the scheme attached to them, to one of our Friday mornings. And I think that's probably quite a good idea, that if you have a sense of who you would be thinking to apply for funding, maybe ask them along so they can come in person and meet people and see the benefit of it themselves. So we've had a one-off donation from Tesco of £280, and it came through the second-hand book sale in the Tesco branch in March. I know there are options with, tokens when people can have a designated organisation, put the tokens, but we managed to get the £280 through Tesco. And what we've put it towards is we're going for a Christmas lunch at the village pub on the 6th of December. So the members were very keen to do that. And obviously with social isolation, some of them probably not having family at Christmas or not even having a Christmas meal, we felt it was a really nice way, of sort of ending the year, if you like, but using that money, in a productive way. The other thoughts are, if anyone has wind turbines in their area, they often have, schemes where they give to local organisations. So it might be worth, contacting them to see if you can access some funding. So I think sometimes it's really just thinking outside of the box, but maybe for Doddington, it would be seeing if the room could be subsidised through the church and also from, the parish council. But it's definitely, working well. And obviously we want to keep it, continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilton. Robin, did you want to go next? Oh, Robin, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Robin. Well, while you work that one out. Oh, you're there.
I'm unmuted. Whoa.
Great.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and apologies. I've just spent 3 hours in A&E with an injury to my leg from Twickenham, but I wasn't playing. I was running for a train. Anyway, just to say, I'm sort of co-leader of the Haddenham Social Hub. Again, we started as a warm hub 2 years ago. We had certain principles that we would be 5 days a week open. Our view was, what's the point in having a warm hub on a Thursday if people are waking up on other days of the week really suffering from the cost of living crisis? So you could say we were a bit reckless, because actually that meant that we had to raise an awful lot of money for those first 20 weeks. The other principle, that we would be a free service, and that puts pressure on your fundraising, and that we would be for everyone, whatever your age, whatever your background, whatever your circumstances. We sat there on the first day, October the 1st, and wondered why nobody was turning up, and on the second day and the third day and the fourth day. And I think we were responsible for the hottest October on record. No one wanted to come to our warm hub. But we realized we weren't actually reaching them. So we went out, and this is the thing I think we need to think about. We've learned from this is you have to have a presence in order for people to pay you money and donate money. And if you can keep feeding through the good news stories through posters, your village magazine, we leafleted every single house with an A5 flyer to stick on the fridge. And we do use social media an awful lot to keep people informed about what we're doing, so that they feel that there's some form of ownership. And that makes them willing, one, to come to your warm hub, but secondly, for potential donors and sponsors to give the money. We managed to raise initially £9,000 and 30 volunteers for the 20 weeks of the warm hub. And as one of your other presenters said, it became quite clear it was more than the cost of living crisis. It was actually about people wanting to have company and conversation because they were lonely. And so it went on afterwards through the spring and the summer and the autumn up to now. Now we open now for 14 hours a week over 3 days. We're about to open for an extra 3 hours on a Thursday, which will be 17 hours a week. And like another presenter said, we have to pay for the space, which at the moment is £15 an hour. I can see you doing the calculations now, and it's going up to £17 an hour in January. And that change alone means we've got to find an extra £1,400 a year to actually keep going. And I think another very important point that we've learned is there's only so much money in a community. We cannot keep going back to the same providers, to actually raise. We've actually paid our venue, by the way, £21,500 over 2 years that we've managed to raise, or with the support of Cambridgeshire Acre. And you could argue that that model, financial model, is not sustainable. So we decided, because of what had happened, to actually put a real focus on well-being. Rachel Dennis took over the role of lead volunteer, and did an amazing job putting that spotlight on mental well-being, physical well-being, with lots of activities, mindful meditation, chair-based exercise, mindful art and craft. And as a result of that, it means that we're now in the frame for other funding streams, which includes the primary care network. So we've gone beyond our local community. I think we've exhausted them. I mean, they still come to us in vast numbers. We've had 8,000 visits since we opened 2 years ago, 8,000 and growing. We get about 80 to 100 visits a week from probably a core of 150 people. So we've had to go beyond, and we've had to adapt to the changing situation. But we're finding that the National Health Service, and of course there is a big focus, isn't there, on preventative medicine. What we can do to actually help people, lonely people, isolated people, to actually take the pressure off the National Health Service. It's as simple as that. And there are funding streams, and hopefully our government, when it manages to find some money, will put its money where its mouth is and keep funding that in large amounts. So yes, our challenges are probably like all of you, finding funds, but we'll keep at it. We bid for everything we can. Finding volunteers. There is a thing called volunteer exhaustion, isn't there? You know, people have been doing it for a long time. You've got to keep refreshing. And on December the 6th, we're having a big volunteer awareness session in the morning. And trying also to get those hard to reach people who have mobility issues and haven't got transport issues, to try and reach them in some way. And we're looking at organising a dial-a-bus service. We've just taken on someone who's going to who's got the training, and will actually, he's also got the bus as well. And we're going to trial bringing people from the village on a Tuesday and picking them up, but also linking with the bus service which goes to Ely as well, the Zipper bus service. So I wish you all luck with your fundraising. And I know we'll be exhausting our own communities, but I think it's the National Health Service in particular which can be a source of bigger funding for all of us. I think that's more than 5 minutes. Sorry. The drugs are impacting on me. Thanks
very much, Robin.
Okay.
I just want to share with you as well, Steph from Melbourne couldn't be here today. She's been poorly over the weekend, but she did share with me what she wanted to share with all of you today. So the way her hub's set up, it's set up with what they call the Cozy Corner, their hub, and it's also linked to their food bank, and she runs it through a time bank group. But what they do is they've had initial funding they had from the parish council. They've had Co-op Community Fund. And they're very active in terms of themselves. They sell raffle tickets for the Melbourne Fete. And, you know, that they're able to realise a donation through that. Other fundraising events that they do locally, and I've seen them working when I visit the hub. There's every week a table of crafters get together, and they busily make things to which they then sell at Christmas time. And I visited them last week, and whichever it was, and they have done consecutively. They have done 3 weeks of craft sales, and they've been able to sell their goods to people in the community. And they've raised, I don't know what the final figure is, but they've raised, you know, several hundred for the community hub. They organise bingo sessions. They have set lunches which they charge for, different to their hub ones, but they're kind of set a lunch with a set charge. They do dance-a-thons to raise money. They've done an aquathon, and they've got raffles and other kind of donations which are made by people who attend the hub. So Steph just wanted me to share that with you as kind of the of what they do in Melbourne, and it helps them to keep their hub ticking over. So this is kind of the opportunity for everybody to share, ask questions, share discussion in terms of what they do, what they're thinking of doing. So it's over to you. Everybody going to be really quiet.
I've got a question, if that's all right.
Thank you, Alison.
So, Robin, you were saying about accessing lonely people. We go around and door knock and sort of try and get people to come and offer lifts, etc. Have you had any luck through the social prescribers? Do they engage?
Yeah, we've got a social prescriber, and Stuart has been responsible for bringing a lot of people to us unfortunately, he hasn't got the time to actually then be the taxi driver for all of these people who come to us. And certainly the volunteers that we have, we've got 20 volunteers. They haven't got the time or necessarily the training or the skills, because a lot of those people are wheelchair bound. And so you need, proper transport to bring them. And that's the reason we went to the East Cambridgeshire District Council volunteer car scheme. But we've discovered that most of their drivers are occupied by taking people to Addenbrooke's, and that they're not available for doing the local things that we want them to do. So we're looking at our own way of doing home to hub transport and return. We're trying to take it slowly and build it up without, sort of rushing into it, because it could be quite an expensive
Have you spoken
operation.
to Hi Friends, the Histon and Impington people, because they run their own minibus?
Yeah, we've had an initial. Rachel
they're
Dennis.
very good.
Yeah, Rachel Dennis has had an initial conversation with them about it. I mean, we're, in no way are we complacent about any of what we do. So we're very, very keen to find out what other people are doing. And I think this opportunity actually short circuits a lot of the learning, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Without having to make lots of mistakes. So yes, we're determined to find a solution to this as soon as possible. But the breakthrough has been a train driver who's done similar things with a vehicle. He has to be DBS checked and properly trained by or retrained by the East Cambridgeshire District Council Community Transport Scheme. But he's keen to do that, and that could be our breakthrough, to be honest, because we cover Haddenham is 3,500 people in our village, but we have people who come to us from Aldrith, from Wychford, from Wilburton, from Streatham. But this is the nature of how important it is. Our social prescriber has just introduced us a few weeks ago to a lady, I won't mention her name, who lives in our neighbouring village 1 mile away, who had been coming to the lunch club at the Arkenstall Village Centre and was paying £19 each way to come 1 mile in a taxi. Why? Because the taxi had to come from Ely. And then when she'd paid for her lunch in the Arkenstall Centre of £8, that's nearly £50, isn't it? Now we've managed to match her up with someone who lives in the village who can bring her for nothing. And she is so happy. So, yeah, we're trying all different ways. I bring some of them from Erith. I pick them up. But I'm also the person who helps out like the others do with serving the hot food on Tuesdays. It's hard, isn't it, to try and do everything.
Robin, I think you're very lucky in Haddenham, though, because your social prescriber comes out on a weekly basis, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And interestingly, Stuart, his day off is on Friday. He loves it so much, his link with us. He now volunteers on Friday.
Wow.
So he has brought a lot of people, and we've actually seen them transformed in terms of their well-being. It's really interesting how people, isn't it, have come out of their shells when they have good company, when they know they're in a safe and secure place. And we've just witnessed it happening. So, yeah, like you, we'll keep at it, doing our best to find a solution.
Thanks, Robin. Alan, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, can I come in there regarding the transport?
Yes.
I was talking to a guy who works for Cambridgeshire County Council. Some of you may know him, Shashi Patel, and he runs he's part of the group that deals with issues that are faced by elderly people in Cambridgeshire. And he said that they've already arranged and paid the FACT group, the bus company,
right,
to pick up elderly people and take them on trips either to like garden centres or to community hubs like yours.
Okay.
They've got a contract, and they said it's paid up to the end of March, I do believe. But he said it's finding it difficult to get people to use it. And so I just wondered if you considered that option.
Well, no, I mean, that's a revelation. Thank you. I was not aware of that. And that's another source, isn't it? We're very aware that there are dial-a-ride services around the southern part of Cambridgeshire and possibly around the other part, sorry, southern part of Cambridgeshire, around Cambridge and perhaps other parts as well. But it hasn't stretched yet to East Cambridgeshire District Council in the way we would like. So you're probably aware that there's been a survey, a major project recently, which is surveying transport for the future in Cambridgeshire. And we've actually have contributed to that. And we've tried to make the point that while the bus services, the main bus services may be there, how do people get from their homes to the bus stop? Yeah. How do they get to the hub? How do they get to the local shop? How do they get to the GP surgery, the pharmacy, the other facilities? You know, and that's why if we could get this dial-a-ride service going, which actually not only links to the hub, but actually links to those other services in local villages, what a boon that would be to the community. It would change the lives of people. So anything like that, you know, that we can find out about, we can tap into, then we will. Thank you. Fact. Got it.
Robin, I need to put you in touch with Duxford as well, because they're thinking about embarking on the same thing.
Okay.
The Duxford Community Centre are also they're in the process of looking for funding to provide a minibus locally.
That's great. Just to say, in terms of these things cost money to run, of course, and it's finding out. You know, that's what we're about here, isn't it? It's thinking about what we can do and then what's the cost of it. But it may well be that. And we tried this last year. We had an anonymous business person who was willing to pay the costs of the rides from people's homes to the hub. So they didn't have to pay it, but he would actually, via the East Cambridgeshire District Council volunteer car service, he would pay the invoice each month. Sadly, no one took up the service, even though we leafleted the whole village. Isn't that interesting? No one, they had an opportunity, and here's the phone number. You phone up, you book your transport, you won't have to pay anything. There's an anonymous business person who will pay it, and nobody did. I think things are changing, though. I think people, with the cost of living crisis, if they can find a way, a subsidised rate to get to local facilities, I'm sure people, you know, be more willing to. There's a degree of pride, isn't there, that people have, you know, about coming to the hub. Being supported, you know, we certainly probably, like all our people taking part today, have actually fought the stigma that surrounds coming to a hub, a social hub, and perhaps having free tea, coffee, whatever. I'd be interested to know, by the way, how many of our hubs do actually ask their visitors to pay for their facilities, you know, in terms of tea and coffee and food, or is it free everywhere?
It's free in Teversham.
There we are. Great.
I think it's free across the board, isn't it, Rachel? It's donations. It's donations if people can afford to make a donation if they want to.
Yeah. It's one of our when we make an offer to a community hub, we say please do offer free refreshments, but by all means put a donations pot out. But the idea is it means it's welcome for everybody, regardless of their financial status. So yeah,
that's good. We've got a donation box, and we simply say this is a free service, but if you'd like to donate a packet of biscuits or some of your time, your ideas, your views, your experiences, or if you'd like to put some money in, that would be great. But there's no requirement to do so. And we do get quite a lot of donations.
Does anybody else have any comments or ideas on funding, or would like to share how they've attracted funding to their hubs? Yeah, Alan? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah.
That's
okay. Well, just to say that there are a lot of organisations out there, well, particularly in our region, Wisbech, which are willing to put money in. It won't be big amounts, but it very often helps. Like we've got the round table this morning came to our place and gave us a cheque for £250. We had the Masons. They gave us another cheque for £250. So there's these kind of groups that are there, and the Lions, they came along and donated money so we could buy a new T-urn. So there are groups out there locally that are willing to back and give you small checks. And when you add them all up, it can be quite a lot in a year. And so rather than maybe go for the big amounts, well, that's helpful. Don't forget there are groups that are very willing to give you small amounts that certainly will help.
Yes, good point.
Yeah, I think and not to forget, yeah, as you say, the Lions and the Masons, who are very generous in terms of supporting local organisations. They are certainly worth contacting.
But the other thing we found with them is you don't have to fill in 8 pages of forms and try and justify it. As long as you know someone and you chat to them and bring them along and show them what you're doing, that usually does the trick.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. That's really helpful, Alan. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming along this afternoon. I hope you found the kind of tips that we've provided useful. We will share this recording after, so that you can share it with your volunteers. We'll share the slides so that you can share them with your volunteers, share them with other people on your committee if they're completing the funding applications rather than you doing it yourselves. So we hope you find it's helpful to your wider groups.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. And thank you for attending today. Thank you to our speakers. That was really useful. I'm not sure if there is another topic that is, as Hobbs, you find that there is something, maybe we need to have a discussion about the whole transport issue.
Yes.
Maybe that should be our next discussion point. And we'll see what we can pull together and see who we can invite along to speak to you about those transport issues.
Yes.
Can I just say that Cambridgeshire County Council are doing their communities team are doing a questionnaire about community transport.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we've taken part in it, haven't we, Rachel?
Oh, yeah.
And I think Robin, did you say you'd taken part?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So so let's have a bit of a think about that and see what we can do in terms of transport being our next discussion point, and we'll maybe hold that in January, Rachel. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it will soon come around. We know
it will soon come around.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, this afternoon for your time. Thank you for coming along, and we'll no doubt we will all see you at the hubs over the coming weeks.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Lovely
Bye-bye,
to see
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.